Carl Jung said, "Awaken and shine your light for others to follow. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." This is an invitation to move differently in the world, to operate from a place of deep knowing and alignment. I'm Adrienne McDonald, and welcome to the Source Code Podcast. Let's dive in. Hello, beautiful humans, and welcome back, or welcome if it's your first time. Grab your coffee or your favorite tea. The Muse has another juicy topic for us today. Let's talk about fear. Now, I'm sure you've heard that phrase, feel the fear and do it anyway, face the fear and do it anyway. Very popular phrase in personal development industry. I have never been particularly fond of it, though. And for me, that always seemed to require me to exert like a considerable amount of energy. Now, today's episode is probably going to be shorter, but it's going to be packed with a lot of information, so you might have to listen to it a couple of times. So I've thought a lot about fear and courage over the past year as I have navigated my own personal and spiritual growth. And I started to approach fear a bit differently. And because it wasn't the way I was approaching it wasn't working for me. And I started using more things out of my own toolbox, and that's really made a big difference. So today I want to dive into some of that, so perhaps that you can gain some insight that you can use. Now, as you might expect, both human design and the gene keys are two of the tools that I use and continue to use that were really impactful and helpful. So if you've not grabbed it already, you can get a free human design chart off my website. I'll put that link in the show notes. And I'm also going to put the link into the show notes where you can get your Gene Keys profile. I've not done that before. I'm wrapping up my Gene Keys guide training, so that's going to be bringing more of that into my work and practice as well. So the first thing that I did was I got really curious about what exactly am I afraid of? Like, what is the language that I'm using? Because when you approach something from curiosity, it usually sucks the wind out of it a bit, a little less intimidating. And I was looking at two areas where I could definitely see some patterns and some long-standing struggles. And I've been very frustrated with my, lack of progress, all the things. I said, all right, let me look at this differently. So I started looking at my human design chart. Now, you've heard me talk about the spleen if you've listened to past episodes where I've been breaking down different things. The spleen is the sideways triangle on the left side of the chart towards the bottom. And it has gates 48, 57, 44, 50, 32, 28, and 18 in it. The spleen is an awareness center. It's all about intuition and instinct. It's also where fear lives. The different types of fear live in human design. Now, remember, if this is defined or colored in, you are transmitting this energy out. If it is open or undefined, meaning it's white, you're going to be sensitive to the energy because this is one of your receiving centers. Now, I have personally a defined spleen, and I also have 3 defined gates there, meaning that those numbers, 3 of those numbers are colored in for me. I'm going to run through what the specific fears are associated with which gates. Okay, so 48 is inadequacy, 57, uncertainty, 44, the fear of repeating past mistakes so that your past is going to catch up with you. 50 is a fear of taking on too much responsibility. 32 is a fear of failure. 28 is the fear of not finding your purpose or feeling meaningless. And 18 is the fear of authority and judgment. Now, because I have 3 of those gates defined, meaning those numbers are, again, colored in, I may be a little bit more prone to feeling those specific types of fears of the gates that are colored in, or not. This is one of those things of you have to really look at the entire chart. Like I have gate 32, for instance, which is the fear of failure. And I don't really resonate with that, because one of the things I love about myself is I say that I'm not a perfectionist, and that really tracks to my human design profile because I have a line 3, the experimenter, if you will. So that's it. This is one of those things of like really taking in your entire chart can be very, very helpful. However, the other thing is when I looked at the gene keys, and one of the things I love about the gene keys, which is, I've said in the past, is a sister modality to the human design system, is the gene keys can really take you into a deeper understanding because it thinks of things in terms of shadow frequency and a gift frequency and then like a peak state frequency. So in the gene keys, I can look at all of those gates and say, okay, 48 is the fear of inadequacy. Well, the gift is being really resourceful. So if you're operating the shadow, that's the fear of inadequacy. If you're operating in the gift, though, resourcefulness. And 57, the fear is uncertainty. The gift is trusting your intuition. 44 is the fear of your past catching up to you or repeating mistakes. Well, the gift is knowing that you're part of the whole, the teamwork, that you're not alone. 50 is the fear of taking on too much responsibility. And the gift is balance, not running from responsibility, but a balance of it. 32 is the fear of failure, and the gift is preservation, like keeping things alive. 28, the fear of not finding your purpose or meaninglessness, and the gift is totality, embracing both sides of life, the pain and the pleasure. And 18 is the fear of authority and judgment. And the gift is integrity, like you know what your values are, you know where you like the hills that you'll die on, the things that you want and what is important for you. So what if you don't have any gates defined in the spleen? Well, whether you have them or not, it's worth sitting with the different types of fears because that can tell you a lot about what is required of you to move through them. Like, what is the leap that's being asked for you? And the answer to all of this is always courage, but it can tell you what that looks like, right? So another place I looked was my vocation and the gene keys. Now, I am not going to go deep into the gene keys, but however, the vocation sphere is where your core wound lies. We all have a core wound specific to us, and that is where you will find that information. So what that does is it perhaps will tell you what the undercurrent of your main core fear is as well. So when I looked at the gates of the spleen, I could definitely see that some of these were playing out in my life. However, when I looked at the line in my gene key vocation, it was the one that definitely holds me back the most day to day. Now, the lines are after the dot in the sphere. So you could have a sphere, your vocation sphere could say like 49.1, 49.2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The lines are 1 through 6. So looking at the vocation, line 1's fear is the fear of success. And the leap that you are asked to be taking is building your self-esteem. Line 2 is the fear of freedom. And I always thought I was like, why would anybody fear freedom? But when I saw what the leap was, it was like, oh, now I understand. The leap is breaking codependence. Line 3 is the fear of failure, and the leap is embracing risk. Line 4 is the fear of judgment, and the leap is releasing projections. Line 5 is the fear of responsibility, and the leap is taking on the mantle. Line 6 is the fear of futility, and the leap you're being asked to do is to step beyond your comfort. Don't be apathetic. Now you can see how that puts a bit of a different perspective on fear. When you're able to look at a fear and ask yourself, okay, what is the leap, the great leap that I'm being asked to do here? And feeling your way through it, using your human design strategy, using your human design authority to enable you to take that leap, And also knowing what open centers that you have, because that's where you're most likely to be influenced by others' energy. All of that is why your chart is such a powerful tool to help you navigate fear instead of just powering through it. I mean, it's made a huge difference for me. Like, the theme of my biggest fear is judgment. I have a line 4 in my vocation. And it's sort of funny because in my human design profile, I am I'm a 3-5. So I've got the 5 profile line, the heretic. Now, what that tells me is that people are going to project on me all of the time. And I know that that's going to happen. But what's being asked of me is to release those projections so I can go and do my great work in the world. And with these tools, that takes a lot less energy. I can focus my energy on doing and having the impact on the world I want to have versus like trying to push through and not, and not having the energy left to, do the things that I want to do. So the more you do, the easier it gets moving through. Here's another powerful thing about this approach. You can rewire your nervous system along the way versus if you were just powering through. If you're powering through, you're not allowing your body to know there is a different way of being in the world and operating in the world. And that's one of the things I don't think that's talked about enough. If you're not working to regulate your nervous system, then you're always going to be triggered significantly by events tapping into these fears. So if you feel something coming up for you, one of the best things you can do in the moment is to bring yourself back to present time, because fear doesn't really know time. Now, that could be going out and putting your feet on grass, but sometimes that's not readily available. And I've been using 2 techniques. I think I heard on some podcast that Kate Northrup was on. And one of the things that she talked about was noticing gravity, because it'll bring you back real quick. Like, you feel yourself sitting on the chair. You feel your arm on the armrest. And she was also a big fan of, dancing and swaying a bit, like moving your body around. But my current favorite is lightly running your fingers up and down your arms. All of that, I use that one all the time. That brings you back to present time. It's letting your body know, hey, you're safe right now. You're safe right now. And that doing that while acknowledging when one of those fear undercurrents come up, it's just gotten so much easier. So much easier. So this was not a particularly long episode, but again, it's packed with a lot of things for you to contemplate. I want you to think about your relationship to fear and think about what specific fears you may have resonated with or perhaps even been triggered by when I was talking about them. And when you're contemplating that, ask yourself, what leap am I being asked to make? And how does my chart support me in doing that on the regular when I'm in alignment? And if you're a long-time listener, I want you to make the language work for you, okay? So when you're talking to yourself, if the making the leap, whatever it was that I said, taking on the mantle, maybe you didn't resonate with that one, but you resonate with some other form of that language. And maybe you didn't resonate with embracing risk, but you've got some other type of language that you can use. So make the language work for you. Okay, so a couple other things to wrap up. Please make sure to follow me on social media. Facebook, Instagram are my faves. I'm still working on that upcoming free guide to support you in better knowing you are in or out of alignment. This episode sort of made me want to expand that a little bit more. I'm going to do a little bit more on that as it relates to fear. So hopefully that will be out within the next week. You can download your free human design chart on my website, as I said, link in show notes. And we are working on a release of a free, more detailed version of the chart for mid-May. So, as always, thank you for listening, and would love to hear your feedback. Remember to find beauty every day and seek out the magic in the mundane. Thank you for listening to the Source Code Podcast. If you found this episode insightful and feel moved to, please leave a review and share it out with those you believe will find it helpful. You can check out my website for more information at www.adrianmcdonald.com. And for more of my more regular musings, connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and LinkedIn. I hope you have a beautiful week.